Warming up. It's warming up. Man, I hope you have your big girl panties on. This is episode 258 of the Who Moved My Freedom podcast, coming to you live from the Strange Media Studios in Gainesville. My very, very special guest, there he goes, the author, Joshua Coburn, one of my really very good friends. What's up, Josh? How's it going, man?
Things are good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm stoked. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Now we've got to do this. I'm not doing it the way I usually do it, but we got to do jazz hands. So this is jazz hands. I think you've been on with Ryan. You guys did jazz hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, jazz hands are now famous, man. I don't know if you know this. Jazz hands are famous. And the weird thing is, we're obviously going to talk about Josh's book, Shit That Needs Said. We're talking about that. The book is out. This is your third book, right?
It's actually technically my fourth, but we can get into that a little later.
Yeah, cool. All right, awesome. Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. It's it's in the realm of motivation. So we're going to have that discussion. But the thing is, when I first started doing this, I came up with the jazz hands thing as kind of a way to get everyone psyched up and unwound and all that kind of stuff. Crazy enough, Richard Hughes, one of the people that supports the channel, sent me this article, which if you want to look it up, just go on Google and search jazz hands and then go to Google News or something. And there's this article. The headline says, clapping replaced with jazz hands at student union amid fears noise could trigger student anxiety. Among some of the students. So whooping is also discouraged at Manchester University Student Union. That's all in the UK. Yeah, I'm a fan of Manchester United, by the way, soccer. So, I'm not a big sports guy, but I used to live in England, so I kind of don't have any choice but to be a fan of Manchester United. So, so there's people that think that that like clapping and all that could set people off or trigger people. So their solution they've come up with instead is jazz hands. Jazz hands. So, and it's also like some kind of, I think jazz hands is the way that you clap in some sign languages. I don't know if you know it. Do you know anything about sign language?
Unfortunately, I don't, but I do know that jazz hands rule. And I'm guessing they're probably over in the UK thinking, you know what? We need a replacement for this. Someone caught the podcast and like, Hank Strange knows what's up. We're changing it. they actually probably call it the Hank Strange jazz hands over there
right
at the university. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, somehow I don't think so, but it's just a thing that I started doing and it's become a thing. This is how it goes sometimes. Strange coincidences of the universe. I don't know anything about sign language except for the international. I know the international sign language stuff.
I don't know
what I mean.
Shit about that.
No?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I follow.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So that's what I know about. So let me, thanks for coming on, man. This is gonna be fun. We're gonna be here for 2 hours talking with Josh about shit that needs said. So we've got a bunch of people here in the chat. Usually I shout them out. I am gonna shout them out. I just want to encourage everyone to hit the thumbs ups. We need those. Get out there, hit the thumbs ups. I'm gonna thumbs up this myself, man. I'm gonna put my own thumbs up in you guys know I'm trying to keep it a little PG as we're getting in this early. You're not a PG kind of guy, right?
Me, no. I mean, my book's called Shit That Needs Said, so that's about as far from PG as you get.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little asterisk on it. Yeah.
Well, until you pull the slip cover off, then you get the full Monty,
I see.
as it were.
Okay, so the slip cover is just in case it's like in the supermarkets or something, and the little kiddies see it.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just, I gotta tease you. a little bit on that.
It was my little concession because I figure when we did pre-orders, people can get posters. So we thought that would be an adequate poster, and maybe people didn't want shit on their walls, right?
Yeah. The thing here's the thing. I mean, I think it's cool. I think that's a cool way to do it. I would have probably YouTube is all over me, so I would definitely get in trouble. If I just if I actually put shit that needs to be said instead of that.
Right.
My problem with it's blocking the awesome abs that you've got going on there, 12 pack
Right,
or whatever that
right,
is, and
right.
in
Something.
there, we can't see any, like, do you have piercings on the nipples? We don't
No
know.
longer, no longer. There was a time. There was a
Oh,
time.
really?
We're going right. We're going right over the edge, man. Right up, right out the gate
Yeah, I
here.
don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. So yeah, we're gonna get into all of that. If any of you folks out there have questions and things like that, you want to ask Josh. If there's folks out there, I think one of the reasons why I wanted to have Josh come on, other than he's like a really good friend of mine, he's supported what I've done here for some time. I think in today's world, I think we're very divided politically, right? Obviously, and that's creating lots of tension for everyone, And then those of us who are on this side of that fence, whatever category you put yourself into, I don't know. But if you're watching this show, if you know who we are, then you're on this side of the fence. I think we get frustrated as well, right?
Definitely.
And we have to find coping mechanisms and ways to deal with all the craziness we see going on out there. Sometimes it feels kind of helpless. People who we think we're on our side, they're not on our side, and we're losing stuff. We think people are taking things away from us. I want to make sure that I do something to keep people motivated. I think that probably has, something to do with why you wrote this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mostly just from a content standpoint, kind of if we're generalizing, it really comes down to the simple fact that everybody needs a kick in the ass, no matter what they support on any side politically in their own life, to get off the couch, to move, to exercise, to eat differently, to reach goals, whatever the hell they may be. And that was really kind of the focus of the book. That's why I wrote it. Ultimately, I had someone say the phrase, "Oh my gosh," on my Instagram, because as you know, on my Instagram, I post positive stuff every day. And I
Right.
had
What's
somebody
your
say,
Instagram?
it's just Joshua Coburn, at
Okay.
Joshua Coburn.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
thank you. But I just had someone say, you know what, man, you say the shit that needs said. And I was like, that's it.
There he
So
goes.
I jotted it down and off we went.
Sounds like the name of a band.
Shit that needs said.
Yeah.
It kind of does, like a pop punk Blink
Yeah.
182 kind of band
Yeah.
that talks about PPs and
Yeah.
masturbation a lot. That's what it comes across to me as.
Okay. Okay. See, now you're going there. So
I,
yeah. So if anyone has any questions, if you guys maybe have stories, if you think, if you're feeling like down, I think we need to be able to reach out to each other and show people out there that there's someone. That's why I do what I do. Kind of like it gives me a platform to get things off my chest. And then I think it gives you guys an opportunity. Here's a great one. Ask us questions. Ask Josh questions. We're going to get deep into it with him. I'm just going to go real quick, Josh, and shout out everyone here in the chat. Like I said, please, folks, hit the thumbs ups. Also, recognize we are sponsored by Franklin Armory. There it goes. And we did put out a How It's Made video with Franklin Armory. Their PDW, actually, that they make. I actually saw you the last time, I think. When was that? I saw you in
late
Iowa.
June.
Was it late June?
Late June, I think. Yeah, right around the 28th, 29th, something like that.
Right. Okay. Yes. Because after we did the convoy and all that,
right.
I made a road trip and I stopped off in Iowa and we did a really cool video that I have to finish editing and put out. So that's it. That's all I'm telling anyone about it. I think these guys will enjoy it. So after I saw you, I actually, where the hell was I going with that?
Franklin Armory.
Oh, Franklin Armory. Yeah. Before I saw you, I saw the Franklin Armory guys and I did a How It's Made on their PDW. So there's a link in the description of this video to that video, as well as there's a link in here to Josh's website. If you guys want to get this book, it's a really good book. We're going to get into it. So let me go through here and shout out everyone. Josh, if you don't mind. E-Rock, shout out to E-Rock. He was #1 in the chat today. Richard Hughes, Ridge Runner. Let's see, Henry 42, Kiaski as well. Special K, Boss Hog, Vanessa Kitty. Also in here, DCG 44s, Rodney Brady, Jason Scherer, Mike Bryant. Let's see who else we got. James Lawson, Care Bear on the Holiday Road. Josh, these are going to be some weird names.
I'm digging them. I'm digging them.
There's no one in there. See, like your name, Joshua Coburn. I don't know how popular that is, but it's like a regular name.
Right.
When I look at you, I think your name will be like Star Child, Alpha Zeta, or something like that.
I always go with my old favorite. Like, I feel like I'd have a Mad Max name, which would be Rusty Blades. Right? That sounds all tough and
Okay.
ridiculous.
Rusty Blades. Oh, I don't
Rusty
know.
Blades.
I don't know. I don't know about that. But yeah, so the folks here, they've got some crazy names. So you're gonna probably hear some of those. Let's
For
see.
sure.
Care Bear on the Holiday Road. We've got Rob Avis, Greg 98K, the Archangel, Christian Gress, Ghetto. Ghetto is also in here. Richard Portella, Clover Tack. Shout out to Clover Tack, says Jazz Hands, also Spirit Fingers.
Oh, got to do that. Spirit fingers.
What spirit fingers?
Jazz hands are this. Spirit fingers are this. See
Oh,
that?
this? Oh, spirit finger.
Yeah, spirit fingers.
Oh, I see. I get it.
You can modify the spirit fingers and do some of this, some of that.
Okay, all right. I learned a new thing then.
Yeah.
I learned a new one. Music lover out there says waving blue hands. Tacos and French fries is also in here. Moo Butt is in. There we go. Kenny Van Cleve is here as well. Screaming Skull Saloon, Bricks. Let's see. Clover Tack says, could Josh look any more like your typical author? I mean, come on. No way to pick that dude out of a crowd of writers. I say sarcastically.
Right. Typical. I actually forgot my pipe, my cardigan, and my cat is generally what makes me an author, right?
Oh, okay, like with a turtleneck?
Right, yeah, exactly. With my large supply of leather-bound books on a big mahogany shelf behind me.
Yeah, absolutely. Highwayman 64 is here as well. Let's see, the Armsmen. Who else do I have in here? Clint Skeens is in the house. Shout out to Clint Skeens. Let's see who else. I'm trying to get everyone here. I'm probably going to miss some people. Leonidas of Spartan. He says, Hank, shout out to PA residents to call their senators to vote no for HB 2060. So do that. Do that, people in Pennsylvania. I'm not exactly sure what HB 2060 is. We got a lot of crap coming at us in the 2A community. So I say vote no to every damn thing. That's my plan.
Hard to argue with that.
Yeah, no to everything. Len Holt says, good evening to everyone. Let's see. RTS guys here as well. The Tyven Show is in the building. Shout out to the Tyven Show. Let's see. We've got Ghost Tactical, Ramen and Soup, Flopping Garbage, Ryan Morales. Let's see. Who else do we have in here? I got Kenny Van Cleve. Okay, there we go. Big Dick Willie. He's also in. Big Dick Willie says, vote. Are you familiar with Big Dick Willie?
I maybe not that specific Big Dick Willie, but maybe a Big Dick Willie or two.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's more than one.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, like.
Yeah. David G is out there as well. Bruce Ludman. Let's see. Armament and Axes. I can't remember if I've missed him or not. But there we go. Got him again. All right. So if I carry my revolver in single action, I see out there. Let's see. Jimway Jam also. SoCal Gunner, Joshua Levy, Snake Doctor 78. If I missed anyone, let me know. Mr. FNH, shout out to him. Chris Osborne, opt out of gun control. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Please, guys, hit the thumbs ups, okay? And then share this video. We really need it. If you don't feel like you need some motivation today, you probably have a friend, someone that you care about that does need some motivation. So this might be the kind of thing to point those people to. I see Stefano Dog, Grizz3. There's some new people coming in. Shout out to all the new people that are here as well. Jokers 60. Shout out to them. All right, listen, let's get into this. Lola would always want to know, Josh. Lola always wants to start with the biography questions. Like, who are you and where did you come from?
Sure. Well, who am I? I'm Joshua Coburn. I was born and raised in small town Iowa, which is pretty much where I still reside. I guess my kind of elevator pitch biography is essentially that I'm a social media marketing specialist, brand engagement dude. Also 5% athlete, author, motivational speaker, world traveler, cat lover, bearded male,
Mm-hmm.
gym guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's all those things.
Yeah. What does that mean, 5% athlete? I mean, I've heard of
Yeah.
5%ers. You ever heard of the 5%ers? You know
Yeah,
those guys?
yeah, the 5%ers, 5% of the population that's willing to do whatever it takes to reach their goals and dreams, right?
No, I was talking about some other
Aha.
5%ers. I don't think
Are
you
you
know
talking
about those
1%ers?
guys. No, no, no. There's some dudes called 5%. Unless I'm mistaken, I believe there was some dudes when I was growing up in New York called 5%ers.
Could be.
Here, yeah, the 5% Nation, sometimes referred to as NGE or NOGE, the Nation of Gods and Earths. You never heard? Yeah, it's like,
Uh-uh.
yeah, mostly these dudes somehow got into this in jail,
Wow.
and
Well,
there's a lot of these
somehow
guys
I
in
feel
New,
like
huh?
I was just gonna say somehow I feel like now I'm fitting automatically right into this other crowd. Like I'm
Yeah,
just hearing you like,
yeah.
I'm
No, I don't
not
know if
saying I
you.
should.
Yeah, I don't know if you would not fit into the crowd. These are usually black guys, and they're very against the man. I'm not saying you're
I
the
got
man.
you. I
I'm
got
not
you.
saying you're the man, but these are some very militant. If you've been to New York, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you ever seen there's these guys in New York that stand on the street corners and they're like spitting knowledge according to them.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right, right.
that's 5%ers. If anyone out
Nice.
there, yeah, there's
That
people
is
out there that
not
know what I'm
the
talking about.
reference.
Yeah, that's not where you're
Yeah,
talking. But you said you're like a 5% athlete. What the heck does
yeah,
that mean?
yeah. So 5% nutrition was actually founded by Rich Piana, who's a controversial figure in the fitness world, and essentially 5% of the population is willing to do whatever it takes to reach their goals, reach their dreams, no matter what.
Mhm.
Like
Okay.
and that's what it's about. So being a 5% athlete, if you see a lot of the athletes, you'll see that they're huge. I mean, they're pushing all the limits in all the ways. Some people don't agree, some people do agree, but
Hmm.
Rich was always really transparent about pushing those limits and living the 5% life. So that's what it has to do with. And I work with 5%. I'm one of their 5% athletes on their site and all those kind of crazy
Oh,
things.
cool.
So
Okay.
yeah,
All right. All right. Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome. That so now everyone's clear on what that is. So
yeah.
okay, so you said you were born in Iowa and you haven't moved that far. You're still
Mhm.
living in the same town you were born in?
I in fact am. I was born in kind of the local largest city, and we lived in a small town called Brooklyn, which is about 20 minutes from where I'm at, which is where I grew up, where I graduated from, and then kind of moved all over locally, and ended up consistently finding my way back here for a million different reasons. And every time I think of moving somewhere, I'm just like, as often as I travel, it doesn't make any sense because
Hmm.
I'm like a 6 hour travel day away from almost anywhere in the US. So it's like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't I stay here, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you wind up writing novels and stuff? Well, these aren't novels; these are
right.
motivational books. How did you wind up writing these?
Back in the day, when I was working in the tattoo studio, I also had a production company and started, a publishing house back in the day. And I just started writing. That's kind of what took me out of my hole, which if you thumb through even the author's note in the book, you'll see it's kind of got a brief history of some of my story. And when I was at my worst, that's when I kind of started really writing stuff. And it took me like 2.5 years before I published my first book. And I tried to sell it, didn't sell to anybody, understandably so. And then ultimately, I ended up just starting my own publishing house and putting it out. I was putting out records from, bands locally that I loved and working in the tattoo studio and all this stuff, doing all kinds of guerrilla marketing. So, long story short, I just kind of took a page from the kind of punk rock, do it yourself world and just did it myself. I didn't know what I was doing, but that was a good place to start, right?
Yeah, don't take no for an answer. So,
Mm-hmm.
if I look at you, and I'm gonna just lock this so that everyone can see. When I look at you, I don't see like tattoo artist is not written on you. I'm
Right.
kind of like
Well,
shocked.
right. I'm sensing a little sarcasm.
Yeah,
Uh,
so we just in your background there, you just skipped over the whole tattoo thing. Why?
right. Well, I mean, I kind of forget about it. I was in body modification for a long time. I actually never did tattoos, but I did harder core modifications. I did scarification, implants, body piercing, branding, all kinds of stuff back in the day, suspension. And I don't like mean to skip over it. It was actually a very meaningful part of my life. And it's ultimately what kind of the guy who started that shop, Darren, was a good catalyst for me to kind of start facing down some of my fears and start traveling and just doing what I wanted instead of worrying about kind of letting fear control me. So that was really honestly pretty amazing to have all those experiences. But and the cool thing is back in the day I got to help them set the laws in the state of Iowa for body modification and tattooing back in like 2007, 8, and 9, and like all kinds of cool stuff. And that's actually how I started kind of crossing over into corporate business, because I was just like, I started seeing what that was like. I was presenting to 500 people at a time at the health department kind of annual meetings. So,
Okay.
you know, that's kind of how things started to come together from a business standpoint, corporate business standpoint for me, and speaking.
Yeah. So now, like you said, sometimes you forget the skin that you're in, because obviously this is the whole thing about perspective, which I think has a lot to do with motivation, right? We're in our skin, and how often do we really come out of ourselves and look back at ourselves,
Right.
and I'm sure even in this world that you and I are in, the pro Second Amendment, libertarian, conservative, all whatever different baskets we can put ourselves in. I know for a fact, because I've seen it happen with some people, like, you forget who you are, but no one else forgets that on the outside of you looking in, right?
Right.
And then you were
Right.
just saying that you do this corporate stuff. So how does what you're into, how does the way that you look affect that?
You know, because of course my parents were always like, these are things you don't do, and tattooing your hands, neck, and face were absolutely on that list. But
Hmm.
for me, it was like it didn't make any sense. Like I was just who I was. I got this one life. I'm going to do it. And it also kind of never gave me a backup plan. So I had to release records. I had to put books out. I had to do everything to the nth degree, always. And when I started doing corporate stuff, like really started sitting in on meetings or things like that with some high level individuals in different businesses, it was interesting because most of the people that I surrounded myself with, like you stop seeing it after a while,
Hmm.
but obviously someone new comes in and they are seeing you for the first time. Maybe you have a phone relationship, email, whatever. But it was really interesting because I saw a lot of guys, their mouths hit the floor and they'd say things like, you're not the Josh I expected or whatever.
Hmm.
And, I mean, I just spoke at $1 billion company for the first time, like billion with a B. Like, and I walked in there in a t-shirt just like this. And I'm thinking, how in the hell did I get here? First of all. Second of all, they're all like, what in the hell is this guy doing here? You know what I mean? But I provide value, and that's all that matters. At the end of the day, I leave what I came to leave, and they get what they came to get,
Yeah.
essentially. But
Yeah. Hmm.
I was just going to say, getting back to your kind of original comment, yeah, everywhere I go, people are like, "Holy shit!" Like, you're just not what I expect. If they peg me visually without having met me, of course I'm one thing, and if they've kind of heard my voice or had a relationship, via email or something like that, and then meet me, they're very different things because I'm never what people expect because I'm a nice guy. I'm not, some hard ass kicker,
Yeah.
mean
Not a
dude.
savage. Not a
Exactly.
savage.
That's the way to put it.
You know who's a savage? The dude who looks clean cut, clean shaven, and is in a suit. That guy's a fucking savage, and people don't
Yeah,
know it. You know,
that's true.
that's the thing I always tell people. The reason why I'm having that conversation is because I get that. You and I are friends, and I get that from people. I'm sure there'll be people who are looking at this and all that. They will go like, What's up with this guy? Why does this guy look like this? And it might be shocking. That's actually what I love about you. And when I met you, that's what endeared me to Brownells that you work for. I
Right.
know we're not here to talk about them. That's like your side gig.
It's
you
all
know.
good.
But that's the thing that endeared me to them, because when I saw you, and I met you for the first time, I thought to myself, if these guys aren't going to judge him, these are the kind of guys I want to rock and roll with. Because people judge me too,
Sure.
and folks out there might think that, well, why are they judging you? There's lots of different reasons, right? Not
Mhm.
just the fact that I'm a black guy, I have a mohawk. There's all these different things. Other people always tell people about stuff that they wouldn't do. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't cut my hair like that. I wouldn't do tattoos. I wouldn't pierce. I wouldn't, do this thing or that thing. But we are who we are. And I always want to tell people that no matter what it is that you think about yourself, because there's people who don't have any of the stuff that you have. They don't have a beard. They don't have the tattoos. They don't have the body modifications. And they still feel like when they go out into the world that they're a complete alien.
Absolutely. I experience that every time I step into a high school to speak. I was just did, I don't know, like nearly 1,000 kids in Southern Iowa recently, which I haven't been speaking too much, but the number of kids that came up, they're like, gosh, you have no idea how that made me feel, because it was the first time in a long time that I didn't feel alone. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, you're surrounded by 800 other kids, but you felt alone sitting there, and I made them not feel that way. So
Mm-hmm.
I totally get that. Absolutely, it's crazy how just our lives and our paths do make us feel completely alien. And what's strange is I've never felt necessarily comfortable in most settings. Like, I'm mostly a recluse. I prefer to be alone. I like to spend my time alone. Pretty introverted, but my life just doesn't dictate that I do that all the time. So I have to find my way around it. And I found that by being unabashedly myself actually draws people to me.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of kind of being that wallflower, I can now kind of, I don't want to say hold court, but it automatically allows me opportunity to converse with people instead of having to like bridge that gap of walking up to somebody and be like, hey, excuse me, I heard you talking about this, and kind of jumping into a conversation, because that's scary. And I understand why people struggle with that. So it
Mm-hmm.
allows me to kind of be a bit of a catalyst, because, I mean, I know when you posted our sweet watch comparison
Oh yes,
on
shout out to
Instagram.
NFW right there.
That's
Man.
right. Um,
Yeah.
when you
only the best dudes rock these
that's
watches.
right. Always badasses with a big heart, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Um, But when you posted that on your page, because my hands got implants in it. So for those of you who saw that on Hank's Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
um, the conversation, even that started, both good and bad, cracked me
Mm-hmm.
up, because I'm like, we're posting about watches, but it distracts people into another area of conversation, which I think
Yeah.
is important. So many people like to stare at their phone and not do this. You know what I mean? And we got
Yeah.
to get past that.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing that we have as human beings, and I'm not trying to come down on anyone for feeling that way. I think it's something that we need to learn how to deal with as human beings, and get over it. So yeah, I don't have any tattoos, I don't have any piercings, but you guys might be surprised to know that my older brother Anonymous, he's tattooed out. He's got piercings and stuff like that. He's if you think I'm a big guy, he's a really big guy, and he's intimidating to a lot of people. And and at the same time, he's a really cool person. I always tell people that, it's easier for us to stand naked in front of a crowd of people than for us to truly be who we really are. Right? That's
Right.
the thing. We're always trying to escape that and hide from who we really are. And I think what we need to learn as human beings is to not see people for what's on the outside, but to try to find out who that person really is when you're dealing with them, and then just let go of whatever, because we all, on all sides, there's someone who's going to see a white guy, let's say, in a suit and all that kind of stuff, and go, I'm not going to trust that fucking guy.
Right.
He's wearing a suit, or even just by the tie, might go, that guy's got a red tie, I don't like him. He's got a blue tie, I don't like him. There's always a thing that we find to not like people, and we have to figure out how to get over that, right? Before it's part of us being able to help ourselves and pull ourselves out of the muck, I think.
I agree. We as a society generally do a great job of pointing out our differences rather than talking about and encouraging our similarities and helping one another. Like, that's what drives me crazy. I know you're the same way I am in terms of being a goal-oriented person. And all I want to do is see people succeed. Like, if they're doing something good that warms their heart, fulfills their life and their family, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's try to figure it out. And if you have some different beliefs than me, or, make different choices than I do that I may not agree with, that's cool. But you know what? If this is where you're headed, this particular thing that I see eye to eye with you on, let's do it. Let's do it together. Let's encourage together. I mean, if it's something we're going to vote differently on, then let's vote differently. We don't have to BS about that. Let's talk about this thing and let's get there together. And that's what I think is often missing, because on social media, especially social media, there's kind of a wall. What's the word I'm looking for? This kind of weird invisible boundary that people think that it doesn't
like a
matter.
veil.
It just goes out into the ether, right? I just said it and it's gone. Well, that's not true. In person, I mean, you know how it is. You see the memes that talk about, you got your ass kicked because you weren't on Facebook. You forgot you weren't on Facebook or whatever. Like
keyboard commandos.
Right. Yeah. But at the end of the day, man, like, who cares about that? Like, I don't care what we don't have in common. I care about what we do have in common. And that's what I focus on in life. Like, that's why I have friends of all walks of life on all sides politically. Do I agree? Do I think that sometimes their beliefs are absolutely crazy and off the wall, just uncool? Yeah, I think that. But again, I just don't talk to them about that. If we can agree to disagree and let it go. So that's how I handle it. Maybe it's not the right way, but I'll tell you what, it takes a lot of stress out of my life. And if you don't think that my social media feeds are virtually is political-less, is that a word? I don't know.
No,
but
we can make up words. Don't worry about it.
It is. If Beyonce can have bootylicious, damn it, I got this.
Yeah. She is bootylicious.
Well, I mean, that's hard to argue.
Yeah.
But
listen, I think
I censor all that shit.
Listen, I know, man. Listen, we all forget. It's kind of like tough. Like, I didn't realize the kind of stuff that you get because we're friends, and I don't see that. Right. I'm not saying I never see it. Of course I see it, but I don't think about it until something like that happens. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, why are people seeing this thing? And then I have to wake up and realize, like, okay, people, they've never seen Josh before. So I think it is a normal thing. You'd be surprised that there's people who I know who are friends with me that they've had campaigns telling me, listen, if you would just dress normally, which I don't know I'm not really sure how unnormal I dress.
Right.
But, they're like, if you would just dress normally and get rid of the mohawk and stuff like that, then it'll be easier for you in the gun community. You'd be able to do this thing or that thing. So no matter what you do, we're always going to look at this stuff. I think, like you said, we have to try to focus on the common core things. And I think one of those things is that every human being has the right to self-preservation. They have the right to exist. Sure. They have the right to defend their existence and what they believe. And if what they believe and what they're practicing does not hurt, another human being, they have the right to do that. And if other people want to take that away from them, they have to defend that. And I think that there's no group that you can come up with and say, well, these guys don't have the right to defend themselves. We may not agree with them. We may hate them even. But they do have that right. Then it just comes down to who's the better person at defending themselves.
That's true. That is absolutely true, because unfortunately, with freedom, there are consequences. And I would rather have freedom with consequences than no freedom at all, because we've all seen what that does, and that fucking sucks. I mean, all the way around. I mean, even just in travels, you see in different countries what you can and can't do. The fact that, there's no constitution, there's no, given rights. That's pretty intense to think about, because you see people getting arrested for things that in America we're busy spouting off in the streets, as you mentioned. Go to another country, 15 minutes and you're out. You're arrested. You at least got 6 hours. It's insane.
Yeah. How is it when you, just out of curiosity, when you travel to other countries, is it worse than America? Is it better than the kind of reaction you get when you're traveling in America?
Well, it's interesting. It's been different everywhere. Because like when I was in Russia, this is way back, but I mean, everywhere that I went, they're like, yeah, nope, there's the door. Like we got kicked out of McDonald's, like just because of how I looked. We'd
Really?
go in. Yep, absolutely.
That's weird. I would think that there's a lot of dudes that look like you in Russia because that's what
Uh,
I see. I know that's messed up, but that's what I
we,
see in the movies, man.
yeah, we didn't see him. We were there for one of the earliest tattoo conventions, and I was doing some media stuff for the promoter of that. So we were there early, and I didn't have kind of my guide yet. So
Mm-hmm.
we're walking around, like going into these fruit stands and stuff. And as soon as we'd walk in, they'd step into the back, shove the door shut, and like I was like, all right. But then after, we did their national television and stuff promoting this, and then after, there's photographers and people following us around. So it was like such a vastly different experience there. But in Japan, like people would walk up constantly and want photos or
Mm-hmm.
to touch you, to see you. But like in Iceland, when I was over there, it was insane because like everybody was like wondering like if I was a descendant of the Vikings and
Yeah,
all
man,
this
that's what I
stuff.
was gonna say. You look real Nordic, so Iceland is probably the closest to.
Yeah. And I didn't even like process that. I was there to do some other stuff and like I didn't even like think about the fact that it's like so Viking. I mean, I should have known. Like I just didn't, think about it until I got there. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this thing.
Yeah.
And
Now,
like
skinny you, not so much. Now, I've seen pictures of you when you're skinny. Skinny you, not so much. We could talk about that a little bit. I know you're kind of buffed out now compared to what you used to be. Razor
right.
JB says in Japan, they think he would be president of the Yakuza.
Right. We were actually told we couldn't go to the bathhouses because we were too tattooed. They wouldn't allow it because of the Yakuza connection. So right
Hmm.
on.
Yeah, those
Yep.
guys aren't down with that, and they would look at you and know you're not in Yakuza.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I know it's crazy. I'm surprised at the Russia thing though, because you could any day be in a movie and be a Russian gangster any day. You got
I
that on
was
lock.
in a movie, but I wasn't a Russian gangster. I was just a regular American gangster. So that was
Oh,
pretty
cool.
interesting.
All right, cool. What
Yeah.
movie were you in?
It was a movie called The Underground or Underground years ago.
Okay.
Um, maybe I think it came out in 2008, something like that.
Yeah.
But what's hilarious about it is what a lot of people don't know is that I'm really short. I'm only 5'6", and the
Oh, uh-huh.
dude,
I wasn't gonna say anything about
no,
it.
it's all good. The
Not judging.
dude, the dude who was like the gang leader was like we were standing in like a V formation, kind of, and it was really funny because he was like 6'6", super tall, and they had him closest to the camera, and they had to position me actually in front of him to make it look like I was equally as tall. So forced perspective in the movies works. It's all camera.
Yeah, you know what? The thing is actors are typically short. So if you're tall, you're gonna be mostly be the bad guy in a movie. Like Tom Cruise, for example, short guy. He's one of
Right.
your people. He's Lilliputian.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
you said what did you say you were 5'6"? Okay, so you're
Five,
taller than
six.
Lola. So
Yeah.
you
Smidge. Not much. A couple of
no,
inches maybe.
no, I don't even think Lola gets to 5 feet, but okay.
Oh.
Whatever. I don't think she gets that tall. She'd like to think she's that tall. She'd like to
Yeah.
think that.
Well, she's got a very big personality, so it just fills the room regardless, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because she thinks she's the boss of everybody.
Right.
So yeah, that's
This
how
is a
that.
good
Oh,
thing.
you know.
It's a good thing.
Huh?
I do know. It's
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah, you know how that goes. Okay, so cool. All right, now let's get into some of the motivational stuff. This book is a little different. And I know you've got your other some of your other books. You said you've done like four, but really there's three of
Four.
them
Yeah.
that are out there.
Right.
Yeah, and two of them are on Amazon, but this one we cannot find on
Right.
Amazon, right?
That is correct. Yeah, and that was deliberate. It'll probably eventually get there, but because of the support on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere else, and the people that were like, I get messages every day from people who are struggling, who are depressed, have anxiety, trying to figure this life out, trying to hit the gym, change their life in some way or another, suicidal thoughts, whatever.
Hmm.
And so many of them expressed some kind of a, want for something like this. And the stories were so personal that I wanted to make sure that I personally, at least for the first portion of this, because it's only been out like a month, I wanted to make sure that I touched every single one of those books and signed every single one and really, gave my time to it, because so many people are so kind in giving me their time and their trust. So will it eventually hit Amazon? Yeah, it will. It'll get out there a little more, but it was really important to me not to do that, to have just some random person picking it off a shelf. Would I have probably sold more copies out of the gate? Probably. But it wasn't about that. It's never been about that. I wanted to make sure it was more personal.
Okay, cool. Now, so I don't know if there's anything you're not, is there stuff you're not trying to get out about, like in the book or whatever?
No, you can talk about
Um,
anything you want.
okay, so the thing is, so this is the book, and if you'll notice, I've got this little like bookmark in here, and I'm not all the way through the book because I don't think that this book really works like that. So this is
Right,
kind of like a sleeve or a cover that's on the book. If you
right.
pop it off, it's to me like a motivational Bible, kind of
Awesome.
what I think that it is. And it's sort of set up that you tell me if I'm wrong here. You could read through this whole book, but I think it's more of a thing that it's to motivate you every day. Like what I do every day is I open it up and I read a couple of pages until I feel like, okay, I'm ready to go kick some ass.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I've been approaching it. How did you think about it when you were setting it up?
That's exactly it. I love that you picked up on the kind of like Bible vibe of it, because originally we had talked about when we were getting ready to design it um, to call it something like, like a subtitle, because it's called Shit That Needs Said, but the subtitle is So You Can Kick All the Ass.
Hmm.
But originally we were going to do something kind of around a theme of like a Bible for badasses, or the badass Bible, but we didn't want people to pick it up actually thinking it was like a tweaked
Yeah.
version of the Bible.
And this
So
is how you break necks.
right, right. So we
Yeah.
we still
It's
kept
not
that
about
kind of
that. It's not that
design.
kind of badass. It's not that kind of
No,
badass. Yeah.
no.
It's about like living out loud and going out there and going after your dreams and not talking yourself out of it, right? Talking
Exactly.
yourself
Yeah.
into it. Hmm.
And as it says on the back, no matter the hell or hardships you face, this book is there to help you kick that ass. And like you said, it's exactly intended for kind of consumption in small doses, but making a really big impact. So, if you're getting ready for a job interview, you got to go in for your first in person. I hope that you pull that out of your purse or your console or your book bag, and you flip to a page, you give it a good read, and you shut it, and you think, you know what, I'm going to go into this job interview and I'm going to just kick some ass. And then you go do that. That's what it's for. You know what I mean? It's exactly for, like you said, getting up in the morning, pulling it off the nightstand, having a good look, and then getting your mind set for the day.
Yeah. And the thing that I noticed, so I mean we could just like pull out anywhere. I'll read one of the
Huh?
parts right there. I'm gonna read this
Cool.
part. I like the way this is kind of like I don't know, it's kind of like graffiti clip art, kind of pulp fictiony, the way that you guys designed it. I really like
Yeah.
that. So it
Yeah.
says,
Thanks.
so this little excerpt says, feed your brain only what you want it to believe and become the brave and courageous badass that lives inside of you. You are capable. Talk yourself up and build the life you want to live. It's just things like that. Now, I know you do a lot of this. If folks follow you on Instagram, you're Joshua Coburn on Instagram. People want to follow you. You do this kind of thing on Instagram, but not everyone uses Instagram, and we don't always want to be plugged into what's going on out there, right?
Right, absolutely. And that said, this was designed kind of with that consumable mindset as well, because we are a society of either entertain me or educate me in short, small doses, but they need to be impactful, or a cat video. Then then I assume that that's how people want to read as well. So I think if you're watching TV, or you got to get up from your Netflix, for a minute, and you see it sitting on the counter, you can also flip it open while your popcorn's popping and look at it, read, a paragraph or two or a page, and then shut it, grab your popcorn, and hit your Netflix again, or whatever. So that's exactly kind of my mindset, is to make it consumable, similar to what we get on Instagram, on Facebook, and on the internet. It's a toilet book, as my friend Patrick said. You
Yeah.
sit on the toilet, you read for a few minutes, and then you throw it back on the back, and you move on.
Yeah, I've been kind of reading it when I come in here to the studio. I come in here by myself usually every day, and I'm here, for the most part on my own until Lola gets in. So when I come in the morning, it's just quiet. Nothing's all turned on, and I'm not editing. Yeah, I just sit down and, kind of use it to get my mind focused. Wicked Digger Shooting says, and lo, wait, hold on. And lo, the Apostle Joshua says unto thee, when life gives you lemons, put those bitches in the blender and make murdered lemonade. You probably know Wicked Digger Shooting. Yeah. Is that someone
actually,
you know? Okay.
You and I both met him in Talladega, if memory serves me.
Okay, cool.
Big guy, beard.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
Okay.
So.
Yes, I remember now. Right, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's that kind of thing. Go ahead.
Does that mean that now at my speaking events that I have to, like, I bring people up on stage almost always, but does that now mean that I have to touch their forehead and tell them that they're healed, and then they got to shake, and somebody catches them, and, like, is that what I have to do now? I mean, is that what he's suggesting? Because I don't know.
No, I suggest don't do that. Don't do that in this environment, Josh.
I would never.
Yeah. You don't want to give any ammunition to those folks out there. By the way, there's a conversation going on in the chat about how tall everyone is.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so people are like, I'm 5'11", I'm 6'1". Ghetto says he's 7'7".
Dang, that's some stuff. I want some selfies.
I'm pretty sure he's not 7'7", but
I mean, I don't want to call anybody out, but what's hilarious is the thing that I get most when people meet me in person is, dang, I thought you were a lot taller, you're a lot bigger on the internet, and I'm just like, it's the Roadhouse syndrome. You remember Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze?
Yeah.
Remember that movie?
Yes, I do. Like, favorite movie.
Oh, Dalton.
Good movie.
Dalton. I thought you'd be bigger. That's basically my whole life. That's my whole life.
Oh, yes, I know. And that Napoleon syndrome thing, that's real. That's real. I know. Josh has that all over.
Maybe that is it. Maybe that's why I'm so...
You totally have that. I'm not... Listen, I love you, dude. But first of all, no matter where you are, you have to climb up on furniture, Napoleon complex.
Oh, that is true. I do that. Oh.
That guy who has to climb up on furniture and be taller than everyone. That guy who always wants people to somehow be looking at his junk or whatever because he climbed up on the furniture. Now I don't climb up on furniture because I don't want people looking at my junk.
But see, you don't need to, because you're tall enough that people can see you over other people. In my case, they can't. They'd all have to, like, stand right over me like this. And then I'd be like...
It's kind of tough. But see, then also, like, here's the thing I noticed the short guys do, not picking on you. But cool. Short guys like to stand like this a lot.
Oh, the wide stance.
Yeah, like, what's up with that? That's not helping.
I don't know if that's a short guy thing. It's something that I automatically do. Like, when I'm serious or concentrating on something, I always end up in a wide.
Are you getting ready for a sumo match? Why are you standing like this all the time?
Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm ready for a threat. So that I can get to it if I need to. You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah. Ryan, whom you know, another tall, very regular, yet completely savage.
There's nothing regular about Ryan. There's something really wrong with him, not regular.
From a visual standpoint, he is regular. Beyond that, you are absolutely correct. But he always gives me crap for that wide stance, like, constantly. So now, anytime I reference wide stance via text, it's the two slashes spaced apart. So that's how people know I'm serious via text.
Oh, because you're going into the stance?
I'm going into the wide stance, even though I'm on the other side of the phone. Like, shit's serious right now.
Yeah, I see it all the time. Someone's asking how tall I am. I'm 5'11". So there you go.
Really? I was expecting more like a 6'1".
Yeah, I see people saying that. Like, I look like I'm 6'3" or whatever. I don't know. You listen, I don't, you know what? I can't remember the last time I actually measured how tall I am. I think it was when I was in high school, and they're like, "Oh,
Wow.
you're 5'11." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna be 5'11 from now on." So
Right.
I think that's pretty much where I'm at, 5'11 or whatever.
Yeah, because like at the DMV, they don't measure you; they just ask
Yeah, you can
usually how
just say,
tall you
"What
are.
did you say at the DMV?"
5'6".
Oh, okay.
But from now on, I'm going to say 6'5". And when they
Yeah.
ask, I'm going to say that. That'll actually probably get me arrested. I'll get stopped. Somebody will ask me for an ID. They'll be like, "You're not 6'5". I'll be like, "But it's my face. Like that's mine." So I think
Just say you identify as 6'5", dude. That's
oh,
it.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I identify as mostly a giant.
Yeah. Well, I think when it comes to height, they say that taller people always say that they're shorter, and shorter
Right.
people always say that. Like Lola says she's 5'2", so that's how I know she's nowhere near. But she's always
You're
telling
going to be
people
in trouble.
she's five. No, this is a thing, man. She's not 5'2", but she's always telling people, "Oh, I'm 5'2". Not even with heels on, but whatever. So
No, I'm like straight up 5'6". If I wear my sweet work boots, that puts me at like a 5'7.5" maybe. So,
uh-huh.
but I'm
Yeah.
I'm in my
Yeah.
flat Vans usually, so that I'm 5'6".
Yeah, people say it's so people are saying out there that my mohawk. I do not estimate my mohawk into my height
Uh,
whatsoever. But
but
maybe that
I
does make me look taller. I don't know. It's
yeah, I
possible.
definitely.
Yeah.
You're an easy 6'1" with that mohawk, man.
Yeah,
Easy
probably.
6'1". Easy. Are you gonna let that
Probably.
grow like more? Like it's
Um
longer than usual right now, and I'm digging it.
yeah, it's actually been longer than this, and then my barber cut it down.
Oh man,
So and then it's
good
growing
for him.
back up. Yeah. It fluctuates on
Yeah.
my mood,
Well, if
you know.
if that thing like eclipses like 3 inches, you won't be Hank Strange to me. You'll be punk rock Hank after that.
Oh
Like
yeah,
that's
okay.
that's when you become that. I'll have to get you like one of those battle vests like I wear, like the vest with like the
Yeah.
patches on it.
Uh-huh.
Like I'll bestow one upon you after you
Oh,
when you
okay.
become punk rock Hank. It's got to happen.
Well, this is because I can't grow a beard. So all the tactical bearded dudes out there, I'm jealous of you guys. All you mofos that can actually grow a beard. I don't. It's weird, man. It's like genetics is a crazy thing. My brother beard, he can get like big,
Really?
massive beard. Yeah, yeah. Me,
Wow.
no beard. I have a tough time growing. I don't have any kind of like. I mean, this is like probably TMI, but I don't really have like any kind of body here, which is a weird thing.
Really? No chest hair or anything?
No, no. I think it just depends on what side of the genetics that you get it from. My mom's Indian, and there's hairy Indians out there. I'm not trying to say, yeah,
Right on.
but I guess like I got my flat acidness from my mother, and no hair from her as well. But it's like a weird thing that my older brother, and we're the same mom and same dad. He's hairy, man. You
That's
know,
craziness.
he's like a beast, and my two sons are like that. One is got no kind of hair, and then the other one is hairy like a mofo. He came out with hair.
That's crazy. I have to do proper manscaping. I guess would be a proper term. Like being a fit tattooed guy, I have to like I'm always shaving my arms and my chest, but like the beard stays. Like the head goes. Like can't have the back hair. All that's got to go. So
Okay.
you're lucky. You don't have to do any of that. I guess I don't have to do any of that, but
Yeah,
I
the
feel like
grass
it's
is
a
always
necessity.
greener on the other side. I'm trying to grow a beard,
Right.
though.
Right. You should.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It'll come in. Just let it be what it is, man.
Dude, I've been doing this for years.
Where are you at? Are you like 4
This is
years
where I'm
in
at right now. Can you see my beard or not?
I gotcha.
This is where I'm at. This
Well,
is like it, and all I'm getting is like some little gray hairs popping in everywhere.
I get you.
But
I
it
actually
is what it
shaved.
is.
I actually shaved yesterday afternoon, the whole thing, and it just grew right back. So,
Oh yeah, I believe
yeah.
it. Yeah. By the way, shout out to Spencer Smith. He says he's from England. So there you go. Listen, that's the whole thing about genetics. It's like a lottery. It's a genetic lottery. And I'm always telling people that we're not the same. Like the idea that we're the same is crazy. I think that we should all have the same rights and we should be treated the same by our government and under the law, but we're not the same. We have all these things that are different. Some of them, you know, cool. Some of them might not be so cool. Depends on perspective, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I certainly agree, which comes down to the fact like you're great at some things genetically, that you're just going to be predisposed to be able to do better than I am. That's great, but it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where like I need you in my life so I can learn certain things, so we can do certain things together, so we can, you know, the whole high tide raises all ships thing. Like that's what we need each other for. Which actually, I'm going to maybe go down a rabbit hole here, but when I was in Mexico, it made me realize a couple of things that I've seen are sort of forgotten. And that's a sense of community in the United States, because we don't need one another anymore. Like you can go to the grocery store and get your food. You don't have to worry about, you know, Mike Smith who's out harvesting. Like you don't have to go help him during harvest because he's not the only person harvesting, you know, and, you know, you don't need, you know, Emilio down the street and the, you know, who fixes cars. Like he might be a drunk, but you know, you help him out anyway because he's the only mechanic you have. And like when I was in Mexico, those dirt road villages, man, everybody was helping everybody. It didn't matter, you know, if you were 5 years old or 85, you're out there, you're fixing the street together, you're moving trash together, you're helping each other do everything. And what's insane is I saw more smiles there than I see on the streets of America every friggin' day. It was insane. Kids playing with rocks in the dirt. They didn't have shit. And they were stoked about playing with rocks in the dirt. You know what I'm saying? They needed one another. They had to rise together. And it was awesome to watch. And that's what I try to always do here. But to really see it in action, man, I think back to when, you know, my grandparents were here. Like Interstate 80 runs right by where I live. And before that was there, they were living in that small town. And it was dirt roads all around there. And they needed one another in that town because they weren't going to Des Moines or wherever to get groceries. That was all self-contained. They needed each other.
Yeah,
this is crazy
someone had to do the look, I think it's true that so technically we don't really need each other, right? But we still actually do need each other.
Right. Exactly.
I think we do. I think that like technology might have changed and what we have and the amount of wealth. I mean, America is a wealthy place, even though some people are trying to make people feel like it's not. Just look at what the Dow. I mean, I remember if we go back to I remember when it was Dow 10,000. We're like Dow 20 something thousand at this point. You know, so we've got the wealth and we have all the things, but we still actually, the most important thing to us, I think, as human beings is actually interaction.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And that's what builds us up. It's also, granted, what tears us down. And, you know, we're just genetically, primally, we're built to work together to create community. And the farther away from that we get, the more kind of treacherous roads I feel like we're going to have to travel. And I'm not saying it's not possible to do. We can evolve into that. We can adjust into that. We can do whatever we need to do. But I feel like it's going to be a hard road to make those adjustments, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it is already. We're seeing it.
I think so. I think it's what's making it so easy for people to let go of everything. If we look at all the things that's happening in the world, I'm not trying to get specific into anything. I don't know if the people out there that are watching or listening to us want to do that. But I think that a lot of stuff that you see happening, right? Like what's happening right now in the news where with the whole thing with Kavanaugh and the Supreme Court and Democrats lining up over here, Republicans lining up over here, and people are forgetting that, you know, there's so many things going wrong here, so many ways that we're treating each other that are wrong, right? That, you know, what happens later on when we find out like this stuff was not real? You know, is someone going to come and apologize or reverse things or go backwards on all these things that are being said on either side? You know, what's going to happen here and why are we doing that? And then we're forgetting that there's this issue that's not a small issue. It's definitely an issue, but it's completely separate from why we need people to sit on the Supreme Court.
Right.
You know,
right.
The reason why we need people to sit on the Supreme Court because it's the system that we set up, and these people have to oversee that freedom. right, when it comes to the law, because we've just engineered our society in a way where we have all these laws, and we've just totally thrown all of that out, you know, and people are like attacking each other, people that were friends and grew up together and did all these kinds of things. It's like, screw that, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to pull you down. A better way for me to describe what I'm trying to say to you is, I saw that there's a guy, I believe he's running from Arizona. He's like a senator, and his siblings, I think 5 or 6 of his siblings, actually made a commercial against him. So he's a Republican, and I guess his siblings are not, they're Democrats, and they made a commercial for the Democrat.
Wow.
Who has no chance. Their brother has a 99% chance of winning, yet they made a commercial attacking their own brother.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, like, how the hell do we wind up in a society where people are doing that? And they're just forgetting that we're human beings. We got to live with each other. We have to move forward. No matter what happens, at some point we're going to reach this impasse, and that, like, where no one's really going to win. If we wind up in an America where people say, you know what? Let's say the worst thing to us, instead of being like thinking about this in a positive light from us. Let's say that people actually go out there tomorrow and get their way, and they control Congress and they control the White House, and they say, that's it, we're taking the guns. This is not, America is not Australia.
Right. That's true. And the results of that or any other massive shift will be devastating, because, again, you know, I think, number one, we often forget when we're bickering on our Facebooks and Instagrams and other ridiculous places that we're on the same team here. You know, we're supposed to have the same goals, but we've lost sight of that, like you had said. And it absolutely blows my mind to think that if, you know, maybe the coasts, because I'm a Midwest guy, but I travel a lot. So I see what's happening on the coasts. I see how people look at things and how all-consuming those pockets are in those cities and in Chicago and, you know, these places. And it blows my mind that people there assume that the rest of the country is like that because they haven't traveled and seen it. But also, that said, being from the Midwest, I see people here thinking that the rest of the country is like the Midwest because they haven't traveled and seen it. So their mindsets are based on, and their opinions are based solely on what's best for their life, not what's best for the country, which is what we're busy debating about, when in reality, it's tough for people to step back and say, okay, well, if we're to ban guns, if we're to do all these other things, what does that mean for these cities? Maybe that stuff's not going to change much for the cities. But I'll tell you, in the Midwest, that's going to be, there's going to be some uproar. And there's a lot of people in the Midwest. You know what I mean? So that's going to be ugly. But then again, you know, if the Midwest wants to take a super conservative view and impose that nationwide upon these liberal cities, that's all we see it. It also gets very ugly very fast. And at the end of the day, we have to think, you know, what's best for the country, not what's best for my life today. You know, and that's what I think a lot of people get sucked up in is, well, that affects me in this way, and that's hurtful. Well, you know what? If we're going to do this as a country, if we're going to make decisions as a country, either shut up and vote, you know, let your voice be heard there, and shut your mouth everywhere else, and we all be better off. Or second of all, focus on a very high level of what is best. And we all give a little, we all take a little, and we all kind of make concessions that we need to make so we can, you know, all rise together with the tide. And unfortunately, that's just not, in general, the goal, unfortunately, which is disheartening in many ways.
I think, you know, look, I think absolutely everyone sees the world from their point of view, and then they assume that everything is the way that they see it, and it's always been like that. I know I grew up in New York City. You know, people in New York think that is the world, that's civilization in New York, and it's drastically different from LA. You know, just like you're saying, and I think it goes back to what you were saying before, that we do all need each other. You know, and I think ultimately you know, if you separate all the states into just the states on their own, you know, I'm sure that lots of people think that America, you know, like if the states were separated, all these states can go off on their own and do their own thing. I don't really think so. I think if you separate it, then you don't have America anymore. You
Right.
know, there's times when New York City needs the rest of the world. I could tell you one of them that I lived through, 9/11.
Right.
You know, if New York City had to go up against the world on its own and what happened in 9/11, well, it would not even exist anymore. You know, it needed the rest of the country. And that was a time that we could probably remember where everyone got together and it's like, oh, we're one country. These people attacked us, even though they did it in New York City. You know, it happened everywhere. We can go back to Hawaii, you know, during Pearl Harbor. There's things like this where we can see like, oh, there could be a moment when we actually all need each other. But in everyday life outside of all those things, we always need each other. We just don't realize it.
Right, absolutely. And what's really interesting to me is we even do that on the daily without, again, like you traveled internationally and traveled enough, you run into people and they're like, oh, where are you from? And in my case, I'm like, oh, from Iowa. They're like, no shit, you're from Iowa? And then it's like, I'm from Iowa. But if you're in, you know what I mean? But if you're in, you know, London and you know, you're like, oh no, I'm American. I'm from the US. And like, oh my gosh, I'm from the US as well. Suddenly, just that alone bonds you. You're not talking about your differences. You're talking about your similarities. So automatically, that brings us together. We just got to remember that that's the friggin' case because, yeah, going back to it, I mean, if you're talking local, you're going into grocery stores every day. And if you know that, you know, Tommy, the freshly graduated senior who's, you know, screaming and yelling on Facebook about his political views is sacking your groceries, is that hurting business for, you know, Steve that owns the place in this small town? It could be because, you know, somebody might be like, you know, I'm not going to shop there. But at the end of the day, you need somebody to sack your groceries and hang out and carry some stuff out for you because that's what's always been done here. And it's like, you know, how do we handle that? You know, what are the long-term effects of that? It's fundamentally changing even our small towns. So, I mean, we do need each other. And it does come down to the fact that, you know, maybe I will just, instead of talking on social media, maybe I'll just shut my mouth, encourage people with our similarities, and continue about our lives so we can work together in the grocery store or wherever else. You know, it makes a difference.
I think the thing is that everyone's missing, and I think most people actually, most people in America believe in these core things. I think what's happening is that first of all, we've got like a two-party system in America, right? So you've got politicians on both sides, and then they have special interest people that they talk to.
Right.
You know, what's happening is most of the people who can legally vote in America are not voting. So the politicians are talking to the special interests. That's who's going out there and actually voting. And this is the system that we have. And these people are manipulating the system. And so you have these kind of things that are bouncing off of each other instead of people remembering the core of what this is all about. Most people out there just want to have some place to live in peace. They want to be able to raise their families. You know, they want to have a way in order to raise their family and have the things that they want in life. And they just want to go about their thing. Even those people get manipulated by everyone bouncing these things around. I think most of us understand that certain things just should not be changed.
Right.
You know?
I agree. I think everything you said is absolutely spot on. If I could add one more layer to that, the media certainly has a lot to do with it. You know, there's a lot of what's reported on either side or just in general isn't exactly positive, and it's always slanted. And if that's the only place that people go for their facts, then, you know, everything's off base. Nobody can make an accurate decision. They can just make a decision based on what they know, and that certainly doesn't make for easy decision making at all.
No, I think you get people to do that out of fear. Every time you push people with fear, and then there's just certain things right now in America that we always didn't focus on.
Right.
So I think, for example, I'm not saying that we never focused on guns, right? Because there's been like a slow, progressive grabbing of the guns in America. But I think all of a sudden we're massively focusing on guns because people are saying this is the cause of all the problems.
Right. And there's always a scapegoat. Always.
Yeah. Well, you know, if that was anywhere near to being the truth, we would be living in a completely different world. It's what, like, when you talk about going to other countries, when you go there, what do people think about America? So I remember living in England and then coming to America and growing up here and then going back to England. Everyone in England thought that if I lived in America, I was like a gangster. I had all these guns. You know, there's shootouts every day. You're living in New York City, must be shootouts every day. Now, listen, I was in New York City in the crack 80s, so I saw stuff, right? But it's not what people believe. People on the outside believe it's like that,
Right?
you know.
People
But
in the Midwest believe New York's like that. Still
yeah, and
believe
so
that.
there's people in America who are looking at the news and they think like this is this crazy world that we're living in, and we're going to solve it if we take these things away from people. Well,
Right.
isn't that how we wound up with prohibition?
Mm-hmm. It is,
Okay,
exactly.
it didn't do anything. It just made people drink more.
Right.
You know, it just made people go after those things more. And today we're living in a world where it's like, hey, this, you know, now we're over that, and we're not mad about that anymore, and that's not a restricted thing, right? People, you know, maybe drugs are restricted right now in America. I personally don't even think they should be. And then we've got like actual legal prescriptions that people take a pill and lose their freaking mind.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting to me. I generally side with you. Like, man, I'm again, I'm about freedom. I'm about, responsibility, taking responsibility for your life, which, unfortunately, many don't believe that we should, and that other people should tell us what we need to believe and how we need to believe it. But man, I really struggle with that. And to your point, when it comes to things like drugs and big pharma and all that, I mean, I was just texting back and forth before we jumped on here with a friend of mine about that, and it's interesting how full circle all that comes.
Mhm.
It's mentally just mind-boggling. I can't even process it. Sorry, I kind of took that on a bit of a
No,
tangent, but it's
what
just
that makes me
insane.
think about is do you believe in that stuff? Do you take medications to, we're talking about motivation and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? When we talk about your book, do you partake in in the pharma world to deal with stuff?
I don't at all. I never have, and I'm not, saying that people shouldn't if that's what they believe makes them happy and what works for them.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying it's I can't paint with a broad brush and be like no big pharma, no medications, because that we all know that that doesn't work. But I will say that in many instances with the individuals that I work with on a one-to-one basis, the ones suffering from depression and anxiety and things like this, who are on medication, almost always, and this isn't me talking, this is what they say back after we've kind of been through the processes. They'll be like, look, I guess I was just, using it as a band-aid because that didn't solve anything. That just made me feel a little better about it. But also it screwed up my liver or, whatever other thing that it jacks up.
Right.
And it's really interesting because if you attack kind of the root cause of the issue, well, of course, that starts to mend the problem and mend that kind of open seeping wound, and there's less of a need for that. But of course, that doesn't make investors in big pharma money, so they don't focus on the solution. They
Hmm.
focus on providing some sort of a band-aid for it so they can continue to make money,
Yeah,
which makes sense. I
it's
get it, but
yeah, I think yes, it makes money sense, but
money sense.
it's totally crazy to me to think that we think we have all these problems and we're like, you know what? Let's get rid of these guns. There's lots of guns in the world. Guns are some of the most simplest things in the world, right? We have lots of tools, implements that can defend us, and at the same time attack people or take people's lives. Lots of things. Guns are actually really simple, so we can't get rid of that. And there's so many of them. Like I was looking at a statistic that was talking about how many guns have been stolen and all that. I think we just recently had like these guys stole 400 guns from a UPS.
Wow, holy
um,
crap.
yeah, and I think they found those guns in Chicago or something like that. But there's a lot of guns that get stolen, right? Lots of
Right,
stories
sure.
floating around out there right now about guns. The ATF is looking into all that kind of stuff. But so we have that thing and we think that's the problem. But there's whatever number there is there, there's way more people that every single thing that happens to them, they give them a pill for it. Right.
Right. Right.
And I think that that is the problem that we're facing with my kids. They're boys and they're rambunctious and stuff like that. Took them to the doctor. They didn't do anything wrong. There was no complaints about them. Lola and I didn't say, oh, we don't know what's wrong with these kids. They're bouncing all over the walls. None of that. Doctor was like,
right.
oh, you know, you should put them on this Ritalin thing.
Right.
When something is that easily pushed at kids,
right.
you know, and you have so many people like, oh, you know, my life is tough. I need a pill that helps me forget that my life is tough. How many people are really floating around out there with way, way more dangerous things than we're thinking that, you know, something like this piece of metal, we're thinking this is the most dangerous thing in the world. How
right.
dangerous are these things that people are taking that we have no freaking clue what interaction it has on people?
Right. Or who's taking it. Yeah. Like what are the side effects and all this stuff, you know? I mean, it's certainly to me very interesting to see how it works in America. But if you go to other countries, you don't see big pharma that way. They can't advertise. Like even growing up, I mean, you may remember too, like growing up, you didn't see commercials for, you know, Cialis on television. You never saw that. You never saw, here's a solution for all these symptoms that you may or may not have. Well, when you see headache or occasional nausea or something on there, immediately you're like, oh, well, that could be me. I should ask this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's mind-blowing to me that that's how we're kind of selling it. I mean, these were to treat things as far as I was ever aware. And, you know, the medical community is there to help, not harm. But this, it seems by and large, is not helping, but instead harming. And it comes back to, again, money. What's the reason if you go to other countries, they're not promoting it on television? Like, yeah, I don't know that answer. I can assume, but why is it regulated there and it's not here? Among many other things. Again, I'm not saying that, you know, because going back to firearms, obviously you go to a different country and those are regulated. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of sides to this.
I think it is regulated. Let me just take a quick break. Forge from Freedom gave us $9.99 to say hello to Josh.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. Up? Thanks to Forge from Freedom. Sam, I believe you met him. You met Sam from Forge from Freedom at the Cigars and Guns event that you guys did in Dallas. Well, let me say this. I think that it is regulated. I think that, yes, I think you're right. When we were growing up, you didn't. There were people self-medicating in lots of different ways, lots of drugs and things like that going on out there. I think a lot of the medications we have now, back then, they were experimenting on it. So in those times and before that time, they were doing like shock therapy. you know, they were even putting like ice picks in people's brains and doing all kinds of craziness, you know, in order to deal with people. But I think they were experimenting and developing those things.
Right.
And then
but even so,
they I
mean, you never saw it promoted. Even things, you know, just like the general cough syrup stuff. You never saw that on television. Like, I don't remember NyQuil commercials even back in the day. I mean, maybe.
Well,
maybe
no, because
maybe I completely.
Well, I think the whole healthcare system was different. I think when you had, I think what happened is that before. So first of all, it depends on how you grew up. But I know I grew up with my parents. They believed in homeopathy, right? So in other words, something was wrong with you. The first method for my parents, walk it off.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Or work it off. Like, you know, like are you bored? Here, let me give you some work to do. Go do this thing, or what? Oh, you fell down and it hurts? Deal with it. You know, and then if it was like really something going on, it was like chicken soup, or, you know, there were remedies, like you were talking about Cialis or Viagra. There was natural remedies that people had for things, right? You know, you do this thing or that thing. I think that's what was going on when we were growing up. But then, and so going to the doctor was not a thing that you did often. Like
Right.
everything, little thing that happened to you, you didn't get up and go to the doctor. You know, like literally your arm had to be hanging off your body. And it's like, oh yeah, let's go check out the doctor, because they didn't want to do that. Now we're
Right.
living in a world where everything that happens, you go to the doctor, you go sit in the emergency room, you go to the doctor, and you do all
Urgent
these
care.
things. Yeah, I think it's more institutionalized, and they've also figured out how to, whether it's expensive or cheap, I don't even think matters. They've just figured out a way to get these things to more people, and it's
Right.
easier. Maybe we can argue. We can argue. I think there's people that argue that maybe 20 years ago, when you saw like cocaine, crack, you know, all those kinds of things that were flooding into America, you know, there's people that say, oh, that, you know, the government did that and they were allowing these things to come in. And we know that that's not all lies. That's not all conspiracy.
Right.
And today we're living in a world where it's way easier, man. It's in pills.
Absolutely.
We manufacture it. It's easy to give out there. I think we're going to get to the point where you can walk up to vending machines and put in some kind of prescription card, and it's going to pop out these things to you. And I think at some point it's even going to get to a point where they give you like a suicide pill.
Wow, you think so?
I think so. I believe it, because you can't just keep people going like this forever and ever. We can't. Ultimately, there has to be some, you know, someone has to pay for things. So
Right. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
I think this is just the evolution and the direction that we're heading in. And you know, I think that it's making people, it's to me like the zombification. I think if
Right.
if you really go back, if you took someone back in 1980 even, right, and they left this planet and then they came back today, you know, 30 something years later to this planet, and they looked at what's happening with people, they would really feel like people are zombies.
Right. Yeah. Well, let me pose this question. Do you believe that part of like the big pharma, maybe the phones, maybe, you know, whatever, is, especially when it comes to medications, but do you believe that that is taking away responsibility from people? Oh, I'm this, so that. Does that make sense? Or like,
Okay.
you know,
Hmm.
oh, you know, I have this issue, so issue me this thing. Like,
Right.
so I
And
don't
then it
have to be
magically goes
responsible for
away.
fixing it. Right, right.
Yeah.
And because in my experience, it appears that, you know, not everybody who's on medication, of course, but, you know, I definitely see that. I see people do that and then say, I don't want to deal with it, so I do this. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, whoa, that's interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
Um,
Here I am interviewing you.
no, that's cool. That's what we're supposed to be having a conversation. And related to that, Len Holt says, well, I guess pharma is a business. You're saying to limit, question mark, question mark. Sounds familiar. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to limit anything. I don't believe in limitations. What I'm
Right.
saying is that everything is supposed to be a balance. You know, we're supposed to live our lives as human beings in balance. We're supposed to be able to make these choices. Now, obviously, some people are going to some people have addictive personalities. I know I do. I know that for a fact.
Same.
I know I have an addictive personality. People always ask me like, how come you don't drink? How come you don't smoke? You don't do this thing? Because I know I have an addictive personality and I'm a deliberate person and I try to balance things. I'm not perfect at that. But I believe that that's what it is. We need to have some kind of a thing. I go through this all the time with Lola. For anyone Lola makes money from the pharma industry. She is a
Right.
pharmacist. If I have a headache, she's like, okay, do you want to take this thing? I'm like, hell no, I don't want to take it. Back up off me. You know what I mean? I try to balance it out myself, and I believe that's what people should do. I believe that's the solution to lots of things, just like guns. You don't need to tell me how many guns I can have, how much ammo I can have. I can have this thing or I can have that thing. You know, I'm supposed to be a human being that's supposed to understand that. And for the most part, that's what's going on.
Right.
If just the fact of people having guns made them made everyone dangerous and made us destructive, man, it would be everyday war. You would not
Right.
be able to sit there quietly. I would not be able to sit here quietly. It would be anarchy, right? But we don't have that. So I think it's the same thing with a lot of these things. I think, however, what's happening is that there's things acting on people and pushing people in a direction where they do what you say. Every single thing that happens to them, they say there's got to be a pill for this. Right. Can I just take a pill and have this go away? This is what we want. Oh, you're fat? Instead of dieting or exercising, can I just take a pill? You know, can you just do a surgery to me and that fixes everything?
Right. You know, it comes down to that work harder or work smarter, not harder. I get the want for all that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I get even the need for that. Because if we as a society, as a species, can make things easier for ourselves, it makes sense. But at the same time, there's no substitute, to your point, for hard work. And going back even a little bit farther to your talk kind of on free will and responsibility, like we are a self-regulating, you know, species. We all species are. We do that. And, you know, if there's extremes on any side, we tend to balance it out because of your point earlier. No matter what country we're in, no matter where we're at on this planet, all we want, warm place to sleep, family protected, food in our belly, nothing else. So, you know, limiting, not limiting, you know, we can regulate ourselves. We do that. You know, we're doing it all over the world right now.
Because there are no limits to those other things. Like, I think I agree with you. We need the basics, and then we need each other. But this is the thing we're kind of like trying to deny.
Yes.
You know, we need each other. Like, I can have this conversation with you. A lot of times, I'll give you an example here. A lot of times, I'm spending the whole day. I'm sure you are, man. I know how you are. You're a busy guy. You're running around doing a whole bunch of things. But I've noticed I can be busy, and when it comes time to doing this, man, I am beat down. Before I hit that button and start this thing, I am beat down. I'm like, man, I should cancel this thing tonight. But once I do it, once I start talking to you, once I see the folks out there and they're interacting, we're having a conversation, and it's not perfect either. People aren't telling. I'm looking at the chat. People aren't telling me how awesome I am and how right I am. There's people questioning me, counter arguing with me and stuff like that. We're not necessarily fighting or anything, but we're having that flow. Once that happens, it gets me charged up. This is what we were meant to do as human beings. We used to sit around the fire and have these kinds of conversations, and we were able to thrive off of that. I could tell you that if you think there's a pill that's going to solve your problem, that one pill won't do it. You're going to need more pills, and then you're going to need pills for what the pills did to you to counteract what they did, you know, and it's going to go on and on and on. There's no technology. There's no nothing that's going to give us the basics, you know, regardless of what you believe. We are complicated as human beings. And this system that we have cannot be solved by like technology or pills, you know, or anything like that. There's when it comes to those kinds of things, there's never going to be enough. It's just like money. There's not enough money.
Right.
I know there's people out there who say that. Go ahead.
For sure. No, I agree. If we're not here to help one another up, if we're going to rely on technology or a medicine or something else, then at the end of the day, we're going to fail. We need one another to kind of make our lives the most successful and positive and good that they can be. Without that, we got nothing really, you know? We need that community. That's what we're built on. Like you said, sitting around a fire, even today, like when people are like, oh man, you know, I'm going to put my phone down and go hiking in the woods for a week. And they're like, oh, I came back so refreshed. Well, why is that? It's because we're built to worry about where we're sleeping tonight, what food we're foraging for, and what kind of community interaction we're going to have, and how are we going to further the species so we can continue to be here. That's the most basic. We dilute it with car payments, house payments, all this other shit we don't need, which stresses us out. And now I'm a ball of anxiety because I got to get to work and I'm in debt and my mom's sick and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. And I'm carrying all this shit. And oh my God, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
But you know what? If we didn't have to worry about a car payment or a house payment or all this other bullshit and your mom was sick, you and your community would gather around and take care of that. That's how it used to be. And, you know, I'm not saying it can't ever be that way again, or there's not a version of that coming or whatever. I'm just saying the reason we're here is because of all these things that we don't need.
Yeah, I believe that, and I remember having this conversation with my older son. You know, he's in both of my kids are in college now, um, and my older son kind of goes to like a party school, you
Sure.
know, and so he was saying to me, you know, he's like, we were talking about what the other kids do and all that, and he was like, why, you know, why is it that like my friends feel like they need to drink all the time, they've got to take drugs all the time, they have to, and they do it to the point that like they throw up, they get sick, they've got to call an ambulance and all this kind of stuff for them. And I said, you know what I think it is from my point of view, seeing like growing up, my dad did a lot of those things. And, you know, as a kid, just observing what was happening, I think that we need pressure, but we don't want that. So what
Right.
happens is we want our lives to be even all the time. So we always we want it to like be even, going up evenly. And there's no, like, instead of going like this, ups and downs, we want our life to just go like this. And
Right.
that's, your life was not meant to be like that. You know,
Agree.
when you face that pressure, when let's say, for example, something horrible happens, right? You know, let me think of something. You get into a car accident, you're driving along, everything's great, you get into a bam, something hits you and that car is wrecked, but you survived. Right before that, all the things you were just talking about was your problem, right?
Right.
You know, oh
Yeah.
man, I don't have enough money, I can't do this thing, you know, this guy hates me,
Right.
you know, you go all of that. Now you just have this massive accident and you got out of that car and you're looking at this car crumpled up and you're like, oh shit.
Right.
You know, ups and downs. That makes you appreciate for a moment. You're like, wow, I just walked away from this thing, you
Right.
know, or when you're under,
Perspective.
yeah, exactly. When you're under massive pressure, you know, if you're having it easy and you're used to like eating 3 meals a day and doing this thing, doing that thing, but now all of a sudden you have to be out there and for a couple of days you're running and you're not stopping that much. You don't have time to eat. You know, you're under all this kinds of pressure. Something's going on, some kind of emergency situation, and you're working on it. That moment when you could stop and relax, you don't need like a fine wine or an expensive steak.
Right.
Because you're happy to have a sandwich.
Exactly. Yeah. It,
Yeah.
it makes a hell of a difference. I'll tell you what. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's it. You know, the people who come into the greatest successes often have had the largest trials and the biggest hurdles to overcome. Why
Mm-hmm.
is that? Because they're not taking shit. They know they can get over the worst. So anything beyond that is better, is the best, is easy, you know, and they're driven because they don't have a choice but to be driven. Maybe I mean, I have a friend who lost a leg, and you know, dude's a model who's out there, he's killing it every day, being awesome, you know, fit, looking good, you know, doing all these great things, and I'm just like, but there's another dude who lost a leg and is still at home, never went to rehab, is sulking, is drinking, is hating his life. And it's like they were dealt the same hand. They just played it different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what blows my mind because, you know, those trials, one dude turned that into a great thing. You know, it changed his life, brought a better career, you know, all kinds of stuff. The other dude, it took a further downturn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, and that kind of taking this full circle, going back to like the book and stuff, like I wouldn't even have that. I wouldn't have the life that I have now if it weren't for the worst times of my life. Those gave me everything I have today. And I
Okay.
don't think a lot of people understand that. If you're living like this, like you had said, then what do you have? You don't have extreme happiness. You don't have sadness. You just have existence.
Yeah, you
And is
don't know
that
how to
what we want?
appreciate. You don't
Right.
have, you don't have a point of reference. You don't have a landmark that points to you. You know, you should appreciate this thing. When you, I know, like with Lola and I, when we look back when we first met each other 20 something years ago, and we didn't have shit,
Right.
and we thought our life was terrible in that moment because, you know, we were like just living paycheck to paycheck and hustling, like thinking like, how the hell are we going to do this? And then today, when we look back on that, I'm like, man, I wish I could go back and have those bills.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I wish those were my bills right now because I can handle that.
Yeah.
But this is how we are. That's why I don't think that there ever will. There's no such thing as enough for us, and that's why we can't rely on those kinds of things. By the way, Tactical Toolbox says Josh is looking sexy. That beard, though.
Mr. Jonathan. God, I miss that guy. I can't wait to see him. What
He's a
a
good dude.
wonderful dude.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
he's a good dude. I think the last time I saw him was in Vegas. Probably the last time you saw him.
Yeah. I'll be seeing him soon. I'm stoked about that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And something really funny that I would encourage you to ask him about, and anyone else listening who checks out his YouTube channel. The dude is ultimately a smooth genius with the ladies. He gave me all the best advice. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he is. He's smooth. You got to look out for him. So listen, on the subject of what you just said, I mean, I think, maybe to have this kind of conversation, Lola was asking me to ask you to tell us about some of the lives and stuff like that your message has changed. And I would add something to that before you tell us that. Sure. I would like to know, like, what was it that you were going through? Because if we look at Josh right now, I'm going to lock it on you. We're seeing this buff dude, badass beard and tats and everything like that. Was that always you? Were you always that? Paint us a picture of what you were before.
No, I was a low self-worth, small, no confidence, couldn't even leave my apartment because I was terrified of what lies beyond due to anxiety and depression and BS that, I believed from people. And ultimately, over the course of many, many years, worked to turn that around. Because if I'm being completely straight, one day I decided that I was tired of living that shitty life and decided I was going to end my life. And before that happened, I kind of had this revelation that, holy shit, I'm about to take full responsibility for ending my life. But I'd never taken full responsibility for living it. Mm-hmm. Maybe I should quit with this. Nobody loves me. Everybody thinks I'm ugly. I'm this unsuccessful small town kid that has big dreams that nobody believes in. What if I started working for that shit instead of just sulking in that world? So that's the biggest difference was the mental shift. Like, shit, I need to take responsibility for the best things and the worst things of my life, and I need to change my mindset, and I need to start kicking all the ass, as I tend to say, because you have to. There's no other fucking way to do it.
So what was it? I mean, like, and I'm not trying to get you back in that state of mind. What I'm trying to find out, because I think, to me, it's desperation that gets people to that point, I think there's things that happen and you just get to this desperate moment in your life where you would do things that you would never otherwise do. So what were you in that state of mind, and what was it that like pushed down your personality so much that you got to that desperate state? Or do you feel like it was your personality being pushed down, or that's who you really were?
I think it's a lot. It was a lot of things. It was my personality being pushed down. It was kind of society telling me you can't live this way. When growing up, what's the first thing that people ask you when you're young? Well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or, and it's just like, I want to be an astronaut. Well, by the time you're a freshman in high school, they're like, well, I mean, let's be realistic, dude. And it's like, wait, no, fuck off. Like, you asked me that, that's what I want to do. Now they're putting limits on you. Mm-hmm. And I never had that. I mean, in terms of like, I never had those limits. Like, they told me, but I'm just like, but in National Geographic, it says I can go to this place in Peru and Moscow, and I can do that. Like, why are you telling me people from here don't? So it was, it was a combination of that kind of stuff, along with you can't look like you want to look, because I'd see Aborigines and stuff that were tattooed and musicians, and I'm like, I want that. And they're like, you'll never be successful looking like that. Well, they're wrong, I mean, there's all these things. And then you pile on top of that things that, I didn't talk about any of this. I stuffed it down, and I was angry. My parents got divorced. I'm angry. Other things happened. I'm angry. My grandparents essentially rejected me because of the way I look. So I'm more angry and rejected, and all these crazy things. Well, and eventually that piles up. I mean, you know how it is. You add in maybe a parent that's sick or a kid that's bullied or a job you hate. And now you have this mountain you're carrying and you're not sharing it with anyone. Nobody gets you. You're alone in the fight. You hate your fucking life and you see no solution because you can't climb this mountain.
Yeah, and you think you're the only miserable one.
Exactly. And what a lot of people don't realize is when you're standing at the bottom looking up at that mountain, it's daunting. It's a daunting ass thought to climb it, to try to take on any one of those things. But the key is just deciding which one to take on and starting there one, second of every day. And that's the key, is focusing small, understanding you have big goals. But if you focus small, I mean, you and Lola didn't get where you're at because you focus big. You're like, son of a bitch, we are broke. Let's worry about this meal. And how about on Friday we order out, but otherwise ramen noodles. You know what I mean? So you work for Friday and then you get that and you can have that meal. I mean, that's the way I see everything in life. But to get back to your initial question or comment, I was really at bottom because I didn't talk about it. I stuffed it all down. And I didn't see solutions, but I also never asked anybody if they were feeling it, if they've been there, if there were solutions. I never took responsibility. I just looked inward and sulked and got in this negative cycle. Pathetic, worthless, ugly. You're never successful. You're not going anywhere. And as you know, you become your thoughts. You become who you surround yourself with. So if you have negative thoughts and you're not trying to break that cycle, you surround yourself with negative people to beat you down, guess what? You're probably fucking miserable. So that was my mindset.
So what was the thing? By the way, before I do that, let me just quickly, Richard Hughes gave us $2. He wants to ask Josh whether or not you wear tactical flip-flops. It's a thing for Richard. It's a thing. He likes wearing them.
Right. I generally don't wear flip-flops at all unless I'm on a beach. So. Okay,
there you go. You definitely don't wear flip-flops to a range, right?
Hell no.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, you got your answer. You got your answer. There you go, Richard. So here's the thing. What made you stop digging and start climbing out of that thing? Was it you? Was it internal or external or both?
To be honest, it was when I wrote my suicide note.
Okay.
Because I wrote that note and all that shit that I was carrying and stuffing down, I finally put out to the world. Nobody read it yet, but I just put it out there. I was like freed of it. And I equate that to the fact that, you can talk to a friend about it. Like today, if I was feeling absolute shit and I needed some help, I'd give you a call. I'd be like, what's up, Hank? Like, you've struggled with finances and you came out of it. How do I do this? You would give me that hope. And that was the thing. I just was able to kind of exercise the demons, as it were, and get it out. So it made me feel lighter. And just that act of taking responsibility, even though I didn't really realize that's what I was doing at that time, was what changed it for me. I'm like, oh, I did X. And it made me realize, why. So I wonder if I do that again, then what? And then you start climbing the rungs of that ladder and you start digging out of that pit.
Okay, so you kind of pulled yourself up by your own shoelaces. You didn't seek external help.
I did. I mean, at that point, I started reaching out to people. Like if I wanted to be successful in business or whatever, I'd be like, look, I have the internet. This is right around the time when internet was starting to come around, message boards, forums. I'd be like, I started messaging my heroes, people I looked up to. I'm like, hey, bro, like, I know you don't know me. I'm some dorky kid from Iowa. Like, can you teach me how to do this? And he'd be like, yeah, fly to Arizona. Let's talk. I'll mentor you. And I was like, holy crap. Like everything's changing. And that's exactly how it started to work for me as I started to take responsibility for it. I started to reach out to other people who essentially had the answers to my life's big questions. How do I get out of this?
Right. So the things you wanted to do that everyone was telling you, this is impossible. You can't do it. You're not going to make it. If you look like this, you're definitely not going to make it. You got all these things against you. Instead of instead of looking at the people in the community around you who never fucking did any of that shit.
Right.
And had no clue what they were talking about because they didn't make it. They were basically giving you the mirror of their lives.
That's exactly what they're doing. Yep.
Okay. So you started looking at the things that you wanted to do. You started approaching the people who were actually doing it.
100%. And that's what changed my life completely. I mean, at this point, it's really strange to look back and like to go through my cell phone and see that like my childhood heroes' names and numbers are in there. Like,
okay,
that's insane to think about. But the reason that happened is very simply because I reached out. And I didn't reach out in a fan sort of way. I reached out in a, you have answers that I seek. You're a professional. Teach me, Yoda, and help me be, you know, a freaking Jedi, because that's what I was wanting. And, you know, everybody loves to share knowledge, and they did. Yeah. And it's unbelievable that that's still happening today. I still do that.
Yeah. And everyone starts from zero.
Right.
I mean, that's just, look, I don't care who it is. If it's someone who you think they were born wealthy and you, because I know this is a syndrome that a lot of people have, right? They were like, how come I just wasn't born wealthy? How come someone doesn't knock on the door and say, oh, by the way, you're our long lost child and we're cajillionaires. Here goes a fortune, right?
Right.
Even if you think that that's a thing that just happens, it didn't happen. That person might have been born wealthy. That has nothing to do with whether or not they maintain wealth. But at the same time, that doesn't have anything to do with how the people they were born into this world with or through became wealthy, you know? And if you think it's a generational wealth thing, like I thought about that one time, I always had that question. I was like, how the hell does this happen? You know, how come my parents weren't just billionaires or something? And I think we all think that way. And then I realized, look, you can build generational wealth.
Right.
You know, people have done it. There's lots of people who have come to America with absolutely nothing. They gave up, just like me. You know, they left whatever country they were from. They lost everything they had. They came to America and they found a way to build it. So I may not completely have that in my lifetime. But if I figure out how generational wealth works, I could do it.
Right.
And Lola and I can do it, and we can give something to our kids, and they can give something to their kids. And then one day you have these kids that are born to these people that are wealthy and know how to keep passing it on down through generations.
That's the key is, you know, as time goes, because, you know, you find that individual who is generationally wealthy and pisses it all away. Well, they, you know, and it could be because a mentor or a parent or somebody died early, they got the money young, and now they don't have the tools anymore. Where leading up to that point, you know, you're born into this family, you're taught how to handle investments, where to put your money, what to invest in, how much risk to take, what all these interest,
responsibility,
like exactly
how to show up, work hard.
But that's it. If you're in the ghetto somewhere, you're not concerned about that. Your parents are worried about the next meal and that they're going to get it. That's why you're talking about, you know, massive investments and, you know, how evergreen money works and all this stuff. Well, at the end of the day, you can get out of that world by asking somebody in that world. And if they're willing to take a chance, if they're not willing to take a chance, you keep looking until they are. But once you get that info, you're better for it. So you can start, again, becoming that person. You can instill that in your kids and so on. So it's absolutely doable. Anything's doable if you find the right mentor to help you get the knowledge needed to do it.
Yeah. And I believe, just like I was saying, that back in the days, if you were bored, I don't really understand that concept. I probably did when I was a kid, right? Like being bored, but I don't. When I think about it, I don't, because if I didn't have anything to do, my mother would make up shit for me to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it's kind of that for people. I say, like, you know, it's idle hands, right? I think, what is it? Idle hands are the devil's playground, something like that.
Yeah, devil's workshop, something like that.
Yeah, you know, so get busy going after that thing.
Right.
You know, if there's something that you think this is going to make me happy if I achieve this thing, get busy going after it. You might say, well, I don't know anyone who I could talk to. Like I want to
Right.
be the fastest, like the guy who could draw a gun the fastest and all this kind of stuff. And you think you don't know anyone. You know, just get busy going after that thing. You know,
Exactly.
you've got the internet, you've got YouTube, you've got all kinds of things. You could start there. You can go to, then that might lead you to going to competitions, which might lead you to meeting those people, and you know, you build your way up from there. But if you're busy going after that thing, it's way better than you just staying at home and being miserable because you haven't like achieved anything. You know, even if you're
Exactly.
at home looking into that thing, you're busy on the path of finding what you're looking for.
100%. Preach on, brother. That's exactly the case. I mean, holy crap. Because I hear that all the time. Well, I don't know. Well, Jesus, you got freaking Google. You know, when I was a kid, I had encyclopedias that were outdated by 20 years, and then I had to write a damn letter. Like when I had
Yeah.
a forum, and I'm like,
Mhm.
shit, somebody's going to leave a message in there for me. Maybe tomorrow I'll check back. Like, I thought that was a miracle, you know?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
insane.
Encyclopedias were a big deal when I was growing up. I think we had a few of them. I had freaking like Disney encyclopedias. You ever heard of that?
No, but were they like educational? But like, if it had a picture of like Van Gogh in his article of like Mickey as Van Gogh in the photo, or what?
Yeah, yeah. There was this, I
Wow.
can't remember exactly what it was called, but somehow my parents bought these Disney encyclopedia of things, and it had all these Disney cartoon characters in there. And that's like my first reference books.
Hey, if it got you into them, it doesn't matter what they were, man.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I wish I could just find those things just for nostalgia, as well as things like Encyclopedia Britannica, etc., that my parents had. But yeah, nowadays you don't even have to do that. There's no cost. Those things are expensive.
Yeah.
And my parents spent a lot of money even to do the thing that you might think is a crazy Disney, you know, thing. That it all costs money. It would like this is, you know, people make money out of that. Encyclopedia Britannica, people went into debt for that, man. They're making
Yeah.
payments.
Yeah. I remember a salesman came to our house, and my brother was, you know, in junior high or just starting high school. He's 8 years older than me. So I was young. And when we got these things delivered like 3 weeks later, because it was like, oh, Chad's starting, you know, he's going to need these references and it's an investment for the family. Like, we got these boxes of books. I was like, oh, this blue covered goodness filled with info. I'd sit and read them
Yeah.
like all day Saturday. I'd just start with A. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Go all the
Yeah.
way through them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy.
So there is a way. I mean, even if you don't have a phone, you don't have internet, you can go down to the library and you can get free internet and you can get on there and you can look up things. You just need to get busy going after those things, I believe.
Hell
Um,
yes, absolutely.
yeah. Now, I don't think we really touched on the question. So tell us about some people. I know you're not really like the bragging kind of guy, but tell us about some people that you've helped that you know it's come back to you, like you've gotten
Sure.
feedback from those folks.
Um, you know, I mean, it happens a lot. I get messages a lot on Instagram or, you know, other social media stuff. And I have for years. And it's, you know, the ones that always hit me and make me emotional are soldiers and veterans. Because for me, like, my respect level for those individuals is like I have a ton of self-respect. I love myself, you know, but I'm here. They're up here just
Hmm.
because they've been out there. They've seen the shit. They've done what it takes. They've, you know, I'm here to be a servant of man to make the world better. They
Hmm.
were willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. You get the respect, you know?
Yeah.
And I started getting messages from dudes over in the sandbox, and you know, they'd be like, "Hey, man, like I read your posts. You know, I get what you're saying. We shipped a ton of books over there and care packages and stuff way
Cool.
back in the day." And you know, I'd get messages back or letters from them that are like, you know, all I think about is, you know, my wife or my daughter. And one guy, I remember I broke down reading it because I connected so deeply with the fact that the thing he missed most was when he'd get home and he'd hit the garage door opener and his German Shepherd would run out underneath the door and come
Hmm.
just jump on him and lick on him and love on him. And that he missed that. And that, you know, the posts that I would put out there every day are what kept him here. and kept him looking forward to that because the pain was so great being there, being alone, not feeling good about anything. And it's, it's messages like that blow me away because I'm just some kid from central Iowa who's trying to keep his head above water in a big ocean of despair and bullshit that he thought he was living in.
Mm-hmm.
So to have somebody put that much value on you who's out there, to me, really serving man, like unreal. But
Yeah. I think loneliness is a big deal, man. Sorry, I
it
didn't mean to
is.
cut you off there.
No.
I noticed that is like a really powerful thing that we all face. Obviously, when you have people who voluntarily sign up and go out there, and regardless of what they do, they fight for their country, right? They play their
Right.
part, and they take the chances that they take, and they deal with this abject loneliness. And it's crazy to think that you have people who are here and they're lonely. You can have someone who's like a big superstar, in blockbuster movies and all that kind of stuff, has everything that a person could possibly want, and then they're still lonely. And you think like, wow, these are these things are so far away from each other, yet they're so close. I mean,
absolutely.
How do you, for the folks out there who are dealing with that, I think that's like a big thing I deal with all the time. I think that's something that we all deal with. What can you tell us? Like, what advice can you give us on how to deal with that kind of loneliness?
Man, loneliness is a tough thing for me because honestly, I don't generally get too lonely because I'm an introvert. I love alone time. That's not to say that I don't miss people or, things like that. But I mean, in the long run, generally for me, when I'm alone, it's especially when I have no goals, that's the struggle. Because if I'm in a place kind of just stuck without, I'm just like Sundays used to be a real problem for me because it was like rest day of rest. Well, I don't rest well because I get in here and I start thinking and overthinking and it causes problems. And then, it really creates a bad place in my head. So I'm always the guy who says like, get up and go, redirect your whatever challenges you're having, redirect, go to the gym, go, meet up with a friend, make a phone call, do the things that we tend to put off in those moments. Because generally if we're lonely, and that this is different, to be clear, than, feeling alone in a crowd to me. So, if you're out and about, if you can get out, if you can go hit the gym, obviously in my case, that's like, if I need to clear my head, the gym is where I go. So anything that you love, go do that and try to share it. I mean, again, you mentioned earlier, the internet's a great place. Find people in forums or in a group online or something and communicate with them, learn things, work toward goals, because the more focus we get on purpose and goals, the less we're focused on, loneliness, negativity, shortcomings, all these other things that tend to overwhelm us. So long story short, focus on goals and work for those in those moments, especially.
So what if you are that person that feels alone in a crowd that you mentioned?
Generally it's, and again, this is me painting with a broad brush as well as kind of looking internally for this answer. But generally, if I felt alone in a crowd, and I did always, because I was like that kid who kind of, I was the weird Coburn kid in my small town, So I not only did I have different interests and didn't really fit in anywhere, but even when I was, just myself alone, I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. So for me, the way that I kind of went about it is I was able to start talking about even those things. Like just discussing it now puts me at peace because I know that I'm not alone. I know that there's a world full of people who feel these same feelings and communicate kindness, accept vulnerability from others, and be willing to be vulnerable. Because if we can break down those walls a little bit, which generally is perceived as weakness, it's not. It takes fucking strength to take down your walls and be real with somebody. If you can do that, if you can kind of show your scars, you realize that there's a lot of other people walking around with those scars too.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
That's what works for me.
I feel that same way. I'm the kind of person that I feel I could be swimming in an ocean of people and I feel just completely entirely solo.
Right. Yeah, I'm
You
I'm
know?
absolutely that way.
Yeah, and I think that I agree with what you're saying, and I would suggest that to other people. I think that if you get out there and you try to, instead of wallowing in whatever it is that is affecting you, you try to do things to help other people, like what you're doing. I think that's probably what helped you pull out of that, because you were down deep in this hole, and then you decided to stop digging and to climb your way out of there. And then you realize, wow, maybe I could help other people out there with this. And you started sharing it, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's insane how quickly when we provide value to others, the whole what comes around goes around is no bullshit.
No, not at
Excuse me.
all.
If you're providing value to other people's lives, the gifts that come back to your own
Hmm.
is unreal. Like I said before, like my shittiest times have bred the best parts and best experiences of my life. And it's because I use those shitty times to provide value to other people who are going through it. I can't help everybody, but if I can be there and encourage people, if I don't understand their situation and I can't give advice, which really isn't my job, it's I'm there to support them. Like, okay, I don't get what you're going through, but let's try to beat it together. And
Hmm.
just being present affords you so much right back because they may have felt alone. So it's a
Yeah,
huge thing.
absolutely, man. I feel that way. This doing this, by the way, in a lot of ways, is my therapy.
I can relate to that. I
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if people understand that, but I think it's that thing that keeps my mind busy and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm out here and I'm communicating with people and talking to people. And like every day there's someone out there reaching out to me. And sometimes people feel bad because they're reaching out to me. And I'm like, no, it's cool.
Right.
I'm happy to do it. So I know we're like, we're over the time. And it's a really good conversation, man. We definitely, we should get you to come back. What I want
For
to
sure.
do is I want to encourage people to seek out this book, Shit That Needs Said, by Joshua Coburn. Can you tell the folks out there how to get in touch with you, how to follow you on social media, how to communicate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. JoshuaCoburn.com is where you can find all my social media. You can find the book, everything else you want to know about me. So you can hit that up. Otherwise, it's basically just Joshua Coburn at Joshua Coburn or Joshua.Coburn on all the social media sites. Instagram is my primary, but I also use Facebook a lot. So reach out, say what's up. If you're struggling, I'm here to freaking help. It might take me a bit to get back, but damn it, I'll get back to you if I can, and we'll work it out together because it's a big friggin' world and we're in it together. So let's all make the rise. Let's all climb those ladders.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that, man. I would say that if you feel like you need help, reach out. Definitely reach out and talk to people and ask people to help. There's lots of folks out there that would be happy to help you. And then at the same time, you get back from the universe in multiples what you give the universe.
Absolutely.
So if you feel like you need help, help some people out there. It's a powerful thing. If you don't
Definitely.
believe in it, if you've never tried it, try it. It will change your life. I want to thank Josh for coming on so much, man. You're an awesome dude. I'm glad I was able to share you with the folks, with these folks out here that listen to what I do, that follow me, and I appreciate you taking all this time to come on, man.
Dude, it's absolutely an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you soon, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. So do I. All right, folks, we're going to get out of here. Thanks so much to everyone that's watching. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us. If you're just coming in right now, you might want to go back to the beginning of this and watch it, or watch it at a later time. But thanks so much to everyone. I know like this is not what we normally do, but I do enjoy having people that write things come on, especially people like my friend Josh that helps people out. So thanks so much for hanging in there with us all this time. Josh, you got any last words?
Nope. Just get out there and kick all the ass, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it's all about. Do good things.
Hell yeah. Kick all the ass. We're out of
That's right.
here. Peace.